Thank y'all for coming back for another episode of the Woodsman Perspective Podcast. We've been, I guess, on a little bit of a hiatus with turkey season and travels, and
that's a good reason not to record.
It's been a good spring.
Yeah, it has. It's been a good year.
We've talked about we'll probably come back and do just a dedicated
recap.
turkey season.
I think it'd be good. Yeah,
because we had some good. We traveled a lot. We had a lot of good hunts, but now it's rolling around. That management clock sort of resets. Actually, I guess that was probably a couple months ago, before turkey season, for the hardcore manager.
And we got our deer brother back.
We got our man.
We got our man back.
We
That's
won't
right.
waste any time. We'll jump right in the introductions. We've got a good friend and deer expert Bronson Strickland in the house. Dr.
Good
Bronson
deer biologist.
Strickland.
That's right.
Glad to be here.
And look, we have Bronson. You've got to feel like, I'm not sure how this feels, because we quote and reference Bronson Strickland
Numerous times.
every episode.
Except turkeys. We don't never bring you up.
Good.
Nah, look,
You shouldn't.
we find a way to mention him even on turkey.
That's right. Water skiing. We don't never bring up on the fishing deal that we did.
Yeah.
We didn't bring him up on that.
Any type of hair
But
product,
Bronson,
you probably leave me off
tell me
that.
this. Look, I'm excited. Tell me about the new gig, man. I want to hear it. It's
Okay. Well, had a wonderful career at Mississippi State, and I'm still in it. I'm there part-time right now, and I tell you what, I'm really, really grateful for what Steve and I were able to do with the MSU Deer Lab.
Did a lot of good work.
Students that it's just, it is a dream come true kind of job. But, it all comes to an end at some point, and I'm kind of at that end. So I'm in a transition phase right now.
But you got your time in. It ain't like you sit on the ground and let the grass grow under your foot boots,
I got my 25.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And so transitioning to the next phase of life.
More of a private practice?
Private practice with a group of people. And what we really wanted to do is take all of the things that we have learned and we want to apply it.
But y'all got a pretty good deck of cards. I can tell you that.
You can imagine over the years, there's a lot of stuff I see that either I think, well, that is just marketing, you can't prove that, or it's, I don't think that's going to work. Things that are completely counter to everything that we know because we did the research is effective or not. So it's just our chance to work with people and implement science-driven.
Well, the good part is you're a guy that sits on that tractor and does and hunts on your own, and you enjoy hunting, you enjoy eating deer meat, you enjoy being in the outdoors. Plus, you got all those years of that research that people like us wouldn't have if you didn't put it out there. And that's cool. That makes a good combination.
Yeah, look, it's going to be fun to watch you guys. And I get to work with y'all some on social media and even some drone stuff we're doing together. And it's really fun to watch. And I look forward to watching how it evolves, because I don't know if it's technically irony, but like, you're going to be consulting in this field and you are the quoted resource, like the expert that the consultants quote.
Yeah.
The research,
like
the research was,
there's a lot of good research.
You get that social media, internet, there's a lot of experts on, get on YouTube, everybody's an expert on, you agree, you know what I'm saying.
I know, yeah.
Everybody has a podcast, and everybody has a YouTube platform.
That's right. Yeah. But like we talked about, Bronson, one of the reasons we've done this podcast, because we wanted knowledge like you gave me, okay, over the years. I mean, we've been close, me and you and Mitt, and I bounced things off of you, and you really opened my eyes, because you knew I loved deer and loved to manage deer and loved to manage habitat, but let me in on the research of getting the most out of them, whether it be planting food plots that you researched and you said, hey, this is a slam dunk, Chris.
Yeah.
You ought to try this.
Yeah.
Let's don't try
the clover.
Yeah, ain't no question. I mean, that was the first year or two that you started doing, and you put me on it. Next thing now, me and Risa are tight. That's right. Yeah, and it's just, and I've helped spread that, and I knock on wood because it come from you to me, and then to Oregon, and then now most of all of our co-ops, Brent, in both counties are carrying fixation Balenza.
Yeah.
And that's a good, that's a combination.
Well, look at it this way too. That's also a vetting process. So we look at stuff, and what we've done at Mississippi State too is we always try to do really applied research.
Yeah.
We've published some theoretical stuff like every university, but most of the stuff we do, what is the application for people? So
Yeah.
I really enjoy the next step of that is, here's what we found with our research.
Let's see.
Now you go
Yeah,
out
let's
and
try
when,
it.
then
Yeah.
when you kick it back to me and say this really works,
That's right.
we know we got something.
And we talked about different things, and you know, and I'm excited about this podcast because we've done. Everybody loves food plots,
No doubt.
okay, but they really don't understand the nutrition. Why are we planting them? Why does this white-tailed deer that we've let go 3 years?
Yeah.
And then how is this nutrition going to tie into
fit
him?
into that?
How are we going to tie into him? And
I'm excited because we're going to talk food plots and deer, and
Well,
I'm sitting between two of the smartest people that I know, and I don't feel any obligation to talk a whole lot. I'm gonna be a little bit of a consumer here and enjoy
Well,
this conversation.
the good part is, it may, because you told me this, and I can remember you telling me, it may not work as good for me, but you ought to try it. So at this podcast, I want our listeners to know, hey, we've done the research, we've done the trials, we've done the problematic species versus the good species. This is what we come up with, and I want them to understand, hey, they said it, they've tried it, they failed or they succeeded. Let's try it.
Yeah. There's no marketing here.
Yeah.
You can trust.
That's right. Yeah, we're not
worked
trying to
for
sell
us.
one seed.
That's one thing
Yeah.
that I've always, when we started this thing with, and Chris and Mitt, I've always appreciated watching, is that they are not afraid, have not been afraid to try and fail and analyze what happened, what they did. Like, they've done things, and I even pointed this out. So, you know, y'all's Wildlife Investment social media, y'all are spotlighting each one of y'all, and there was a clip about Mitt. And I shared it and I commented, like, what sets Mitt apart, and I think this is what sets Wildlife Investments apart, is that you've done it. Mitt's done it in the real world on his own properties. And
That's right.
there's a lot of that's a little bit of that missing piece too with a lot of people in that
Yeah.
consulting arena, and even real estate and other things.
Tie
Y'all
into that.
done it, like you said, applied research, not just theoretical or in a vacuum.
It should be validating too when you go to someone like Mitt and you go to his farm,
That's right.
and this is what he is doing. Then you know this is legitimate.
And you see what
what it produces.
That's right.
you're growing. I mean, look, bottom line, we can say all we want to. We want healthy stands, but we want big antlers. Mm-hmm. I don't care where you're at. You agree?
Absolutely.
And you look at all the years you've had at Mississippi State in working in deer pens. The first thing people come to the pens, they're looking, wow, man, I can't believe they cut the horns off.
Right.
You know, because they want to see the
Yeah.
racks. I mean, we do like those, but we want to. We don't go buy 9 trail cameras, and every corn feeder you stick one on, and a trail and a scrape, because you're looking for a doe.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to see what the best deer we got.
That's right.
So Bronson, right now we're in May in the South in Mississippi, so we're gearing up. We've had a lot of rain, and we'll get into some of the stuff that I've already planted, and probably you've got some stuff planted. Tell us a little bit on the deer, why this summer food plot is going to. It's the most, to me, it's the most important planning you could do to me.
Yep.
I've done it for years.
Yeah.
But kind of explain to them the theoretical reason, which we know fawns and does pregnant and dropping fawns, but antlers.
Yep.
Kind of
Sure,
tell us.
sure. Well, so think of it this way as well. This is the time of year to make hay because the sun is shining. This is the time of year that, depending on where you're at in the country, a deer is going to make it or not based on how much weight it can put on this time of year. So first of all, you even just got that, is it going to survive or not? Then we have to look at what is it this fall, and then we have to look at it as a long-term 5+ year effect. So relative to this fall, you got to think about spring green up. From spring green up until about August, sometimes July, sometimes August, that is when there is going to be the greatest amount of food on the landscape for a deer. And you ought to be able
Even
to
just
see that
in natural, just in nature. Yeah.
all natural. That is
Yeah.
is the time of plenty right there. And then when you start getting into late summer, and for us, we'll say late August, September. Even though it looks like there's a lot of food out there, there is a lot of standing vegetation, but the quality is really, really low.
Because they've actually picked the best. They're most of the time.
So they've high graded the vegetation.
That's right.
Part of it.
100%.
But it is also grown. So these young little plants now are now
maturing.
4 foot high, and they're mature, and they're setting seed, and the fiber side and the nutrition is low. And so now, believe it or not, is in that late summer is where we have what us nerdy people call the nutrition, we call it a bottleneck. So a lot of people are so familiar with up north, winter is a bottleneck. And it is to some extent down here. But it's really late summer and then February before.
So when you look at when they're nutritionally stressed the most in that calendar year, that's what we're going to look at as a bottleneck. That's exactly
right. Yep. And so one way we can address that, of course, if you're managing your habitat, then that's good. Of course, if you're applying prescribed fire, especially at different times of the year, you're going to be providing naturally good nutrition. But the way you can just about guarantee, and let's be honest, we all are big fans of habitat management. We love doing it. It's therapy for us. Yeah. There's a lot of people who aren't going to do that, but they really enjoy planting a food plot. Yes. So what we try to do is convince them that not only having the wheat and clover in November is good. There's nothing bad about that. But it's also there to hunt. It is to help you see deer, attract deer, and harvest deer. Yeah. The summer plot, you do not have that. That is all about providing nutrition. And you got two sensitivities there. You got fawns that are in the womb. You've got gestation. And there's all sorts of signals that are being sent to that developing fetus. Am I in good nutrition or am I stressed? Yep. That will have lifelong effects on the expression of genetics of that fawn. That is the epigenetic effect from the research.
That's what I wanted you to get into, because that's what people don't understand.
Yeah.
So you're saying that button buck that will be dropped in July, August, the healthier his mama is, the best high quality food that she can forage is going to make him a stronger, high potential.
That's what determines if he can express those genetics.
From the point of conception all the way until birth. Now that's when the epigenetic stuff would stop, but then also lactation. And so that early growing period is going to be lots of high quality milk is going to be important. And so like what we demonstrated with that research here, I think y'all might have had an episode talking about it with Roy earlier. But what we found out, and y'all probably remember this.
I think Roy said it wrong. Yeah, I remember.
15, 20 years ago. And in Mississippi, we got we have probably the greatest variability of the size of deer as any other state in the South.
Right. Having a code, meaning having a delta.
That's
got
that genetic code.
That's exactly right.
And you proved that. You proved that on some of those studies.
Yeah. So let's just kind of go through how that worked out. And then we got some of the poorest. It's no fault of the deer that they live south of Hattiesburg, but there's just not as much food.
I don't trust anything from south of Highway 90. Deer or a person.
But over time, a deer is a product of its environment, plain and simple. Now, not necessarily an individual, but over time, when deer body weights are 70 pounds at an adult, it means they're nutritionally stressed, and they have been stressed for a long time. Compare that to 300-pound deer. That's not the average, but occasionally in the delta. That is a product of good nutrition.
Yeah.
But people that aren't biologists are thinking they always default to the genetic word. It's got to be genetics. So if we want big deer outside of the delta, well, what's the solution to that? We got to translocate them. We got to catch them over here and turn them loose. Yeah, and
that's right. We hear it a lot. Yeah, we hear it a lot.
Turn them loose there so we can have those good genetics.
Go up north, get them, and bring them down here.
That's right. Yeah. Well, that doesn't work. And so what we demonstrated, not to go into all the different nuances of that, but what we showed with that was once we took deer from those different regions of the state, we took them back to campus, and once those pregnant does, once they had their fawns, those mothers were out of the study. They were done. And now we have an entire fawn crop
of babies.
We have babies. We have a fawn crop from different regions of the state. And from that point after they were weaned, they were given the exact same food.
An amount of food.
All they could eat. The exact same food over here, all they can eat. Well, what we found out is that, and we would have loved to have carried all these bucks to 5 or 6 years of age.
That would have been cool.
But that would have been a 20-year study instead of a 10-year study.
Yeah.
So we started measuring results at 3.5. So what was fascinating in the end, it was very stressful initially, but what was fascinating was...
Because a bunch of them rascals, wasn't it?
When we got to that first, what we call the cohort, that first cohort, now their mothers were wild. The fawns were raised in the pens, but their mothers were wild. So, and very important point there, during a lot of the gestation process, it was in the wild. But when we looked at those lower coastal plain deer at 3.5 years of age, we didn't move the needle hardly at all.
First generation.
The first generation. Antler size on average compared to the wild, several inches, 3 or 4 inches, but you're like, my goodness, all this work to get 3 or 4 inches, that's nothing at all. And body weight, we moved at 1 pound.
Wow.
1 pound. So that, think about this. From when those buck fawns were weaned, for 3 years, they had all they can eat of the highest quality diet.
Right.
Gestation.
For a pound.
And no stress.
And no stress.
That's
for a
big, you know.
pound.
A lot of
So
work.
then we're like, ooh, we might have to walk this back a little bit here. We were saying it was all environment, has nothing to do with genetics. Like, me and Steve getting little beads of sweat running down the forehead. Like, what's going on here? But it's like, nope, let's go back. This was designed to look at 2 generations, so let's just let it play out. And when we let it play out, so now the second generation, or called the F2 in genetics, was that now their mothers were raised in captivity on good nutrition. So now the
took
mothers,
a variable out of it.
we took the wild,
Wild gestation period and wild doe. You took that variable out.
And their
exactly
nutrition before you got them.
That's right. So there was a legacy there
Right.
of the nutritional stress that carried on for a generation. Even though we improved the nutritional conditions for that buck fawn up until 3 years of age, it still carried the legacy of his mother.
Couldn't overcome it in
stressed.
3 years. Like,
You couldn't feed out of that. That's right.
It's interesting.
But the second generation, born of mothers that also now had been fed up until 3 or 4 years of age, and they experienced good nutrition, and they do not have nutritional stress whatsoever, we saw a 35-pound difference.
That's
jump.
pretty neat.
Almost 30 inches of antler
So-
size, 35 pounds
That's
of weight.
just
That's-
about the difference. I mean, that's
That
pretty close
was
to
the
that,
difference.
Yeah.
We now had Delta deer from the lower coastal plain, but it took 2 generations to do it.
But it also took as much food, whether it's supplemental, food plots, or habitat, that they could get. And that's what you're trying to get. Wildlife investors trying to get landowners
Right.
to capitalize on every amount, because there's certain ones that they're going to hit. And having everything for them makes it a lot easier.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Really walk it back to
That's cool.
soil, I guess. A
Yeah.
lot of it, I mean, effectively back to soil.
What
Just
you
practices, really, man.
hit
It's
the nail.
practices.
Okay, let me say one thing though. I don't want to overemphasize, because I get questions like with seminars over the years. Let's be very clear about this. It was not a supplemental feeding effect. It was a nutrition effect.
That's
It
right.
was
That's
food.
right. Yes.
Because that's what you're
If
measuring.
Yes.
That's right. Well,
Yeah.
think about a study. The only way we can have that many deer inside of it, you got a supplemental feed.
Yeah, but you got to feed them the same high quality food.
You have to standardize.
Right.
it.
You wasn't feeding them sagebrush.
Right.
Y'all were feeding them all high quality.
That's right. So we could control
But the amount of protein, even in that supplemental food, we can get out of these food plots, and we can get out of this natural food, and we can get out of this TSP work, and we can get a lot of this stuff.
Absolutely.
Just timber stand improvements, thinnings, burnings. And that's the thing that we're mostly talking about. We'll be talking about food plots, but the same amount of protein, it's in that bag, because you showed it to me,
or more
that we can get out of our stuff.
out of our plants. Yeah.
And if you like me and a lot of people, it's no different than a woman loving to grow flowers. 'Cause I got one that loves flowers now.
I didn't know where you go.
Kill my back.
Cleared that up.
About killed my back with the thing.
Where we were going.
But people like to grow them.
Yep.
I like to grow. I mean, we went
grow
down there.
stuff, yeah.
I love to grow stuff. I love to grow soybeans. I love to grow cowpeas, the fetch, the clovers. I mean, all that. I just like to grow. I mean, everybody that does is like got a little farming in them.
It goes back to what Bronson said early on. Even the people that don't have a lot of time and they're not maybe like us where they're thinking about this 365 days a year, they still like to grow a food plot.
Absolutely.
And
It's
they can
fun.
manage that.
That's right.
A lot of people enjoy it's therapeutic to get on a tractor and do that and see the plants grow.
That's right.
They
And
enjoy it.
more people are investing in land.
Well, the fruits
and
of your
getting
labor,
it. That's just
you're watching.
stewardship.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's look, whether you're doing a small, got a Kubota, 50 horsepower Kubota, and you're planting 2 or 3 green strips, you still want success.
All right, so that's a good point. And
You know,
when Chris sort of teed this up to talk about the distinction between that summer food plot and summer feeding, what that does for deer versus the fall food plot, you went to the study. So I'm going to say that leads into the fact that this, like you said, this window of time from green up till August when everything's really hot and rank and that falls off, that's that critical time. That's where the summer food plot pays off.
Right.
Makes hay.
Yep. That's
because
exactly
you know what that species of plant that you planting is going to produce.
Somebody said it a long time ago, and it made the most sense to me, is the fall food plot, the winter food plot is for the deer hunter, the summer food plot is for the deer.
Yes.
No question.
I could not agree more.
And
That's
I've been
exactly right.
You know, the amounts, and I've tried just like you, not on a big research level like y'all have planted, but we've planted between me and you. I guarantee we've planted every species out of a bag,
I believe.
whether name brands, put together mixes, and everything. Wouldn't you agree? We planted them all,
We planted a lot.
and that we could grow here. And I think some of the mixes that you've come up with, and that I've tried and I've come up with, I think we've got our area pretty strong. Some pretty strong mixes.
Hard to argue.
You know,
Hard to argue
you know what I mean,
Right.
and self-grown. And tying your research, what you just said, and guys, if y'all have never watched this, you've got that thing out there that y'all can, that research that y'all done
Oh,
with
yeah. Yeah,
to read it. It's
absolutely.
really, really cool. You went through it in 15 minutes, 10 minutes, but it is, it'll make you, people that run dogs, that's all they do, and they kill 100-inch deer, y'all are growing just as big a deer that we got up here in the prairie, and they got in the Delta.
Right.
But you,
All because of nutrition.
nutrition.
And I
And
hesitated a moment ago to, I guess I'm so used to saying, that word, but I hate saying it because I want to make sure people don't confuse it. When I say epigenetics, there was an epigenetic change. That is not the same as a genetic change. So we did not do anything at all.
Y'all didn't alter them. Y'all didn't mix
genetically.
them with 2 different
No,
things.
no,
They
no,
were
no,
the
doing
same.
No,
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
crossbreeding.
No.
Everything was random, nothing changed. Epigenetics, all that simply means is your genes didn't change. Epigenetics means an external force like the environment, like nutrition, etc., changes the expression
pulled that-
of the genetics.
It
that you
maximized
have.
that gene.
You fully
Genome.
expressed the genetics you
Yep.
had. So all those little lower coastal plain deer had the ability to get bigger, but the environment suppressed the expression.
Right.
We released the expression.
That's
all
awesome.
we did.
Yeah. Y'all brought it out.
We brought it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have stayed with that rank nutrition and the poor quality nutrition. It was just going to stay there. But all it needed was an F1 and F2 to get out of there. And
All we did,
and
Chris,
really,
we thinned the stand,
Yeah.
let the light in, and,
Yeah.
and it grew.
yeah,
Yes, same
I mean,
thing.
it's bottom line. The cool part of that is the very cool part is you started that nutrition, but you didn't stop it. So people listening to this, he didn't let them run out. He didn't let that cup. He didn't let that plate
Let
go
the table
dry.
get clear.
So we've got to pick species out, and we've done this where the overlaps into the other ones. And I mean, Brent, we went and looked at some today that I've put fences out. I planted them a month ago. They're up. So I still got clover here that we sprayed a month and a half ago. it's getting eat. Then the new stuff that we're going to get into planting, then once we jerk the fences down, boom, they never run out.
I'll go back and look at some, I don't know what all I got on video, and if I got it, if it illustrates this, I'll put it up right here. But as we rode through, we were going to look at some of these plots, and it's vetch, cowpeas, iron clay peas,
soybean,
and they're situated between areas, very strategically between areas of early succession habitat that you're rotating fire.
Yeah.
So as we go through there, there's the side you burned.
I got some natural
so
stuff.
You've got the natural stuff, and you've got this fence protecting the food plot, the electric fence. So as that starts to fade out, the what you've provided naturally through your fire,
and the electric fence,
let the fence down. It's perfect.
I fought the electric fence.
It's thoughtful, like it's purposeful.
Mm-hmm.
I fought electric fence from him. I fought it. I said, I ain't putting no damn fence up around.
I remember.
You remember that? I ain't doing it. Just try it. I ain't doing it.
You got a fence on every field.
I got 7 electric fences down here. I mean, really.
Look, I work for a power company. He's got more miles of power line than we got.
McGallagher, they ought to send me a hat. I ought to get a McGallagher hat. I mean, I don't know if they make them, but I got as many electric fences. That's right. That McGallagher electric fence is dynamite. And you think about it, somebody said, well, will it really keep them out?
Yes.
So when them hooves, them sweet wet hooves, and they stick that face to that fence, God dog it. Yeah. And they hear it too. They hear it too.
I think they sense it.
Yeah, because I jerked a limb off once a while ago and it knocked fire off me just a while ago. And I'm like, God almighty.
Is that why you ran that forward off in the ditch?
No, that was different. I was hoping we were going to go that story. Damn stump ball. But anyway.
I was headed back to meet you here, and Chris was gone. I looked at my phone. I had to go back.
7 missed calls, and I was walking.
Came walking down.
I looked like Andy Griffith without the fishing pole coming back. So, I mean, it was a bad deal. But I was supposed to be a better, and I was not on the phone. It just pulled me in that damn ditch. But
hey, Brent, if I may, you said something a moment ago that we haven't even talked on the Deer University podcast yet, because it just got published. But I do think it ties into this story, because I think it will provide people that are in an area where there's a history of, let's just say, poor nutrition for various reasons. This should give them hope. So when we did that research that we just discussed, and before that, Steve and I, even Harry Jacobson, did a lot of research that was correlation, association, meaning
causation and correlation.
That's right. It's not a causation, but we did correlation because there was always an association with, quote, soil quality and where the big deer were. Now, the thing about it is, where you typically have greater soil quality is where you grow crops.
Sure,
Is
that's right.
Is that right?
Prairie.
So whether it's
Delta.
the microcosm of Mississippi or in North America, the quote good soils is where you have a lot of agriculture.
Yeah.
But soil can still have some influence. So
nutrients and minerals you're talking about.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. More mineral dense soil. We assume it's going to be taken up by the plant.
Yeah.
That's right. So I wanted to get back to our people like down on the coast. They might be thinking, well, that's all good. You're saying all this habitat management, you don't have to feed, but our soils aren't going to do that because it's so poor. Mm-hmm. Well, we just completed a big study. 16 states.
Wow.
We over a 5-year period, over 16 states, and we went. There's this. It's called like a soil productivity index is what it's called. And it's a big GIS. You can pick out these little places. It's the best of the best and the worst of the worst. Well, we went there for years and years and sampled plants, the same species of plants, meaning we did a ragweed in South
Natural
Mississippi,
plants.
a ragweed from the Arkansas Delta, a ragweed in Illinois, and we had a whole bunch of those. And we had forb grasses or herbaceous broadleafs or forbs, and then we had some shrubs and brambles. Anyway, so we did all that. We did the range of low soil quality to high soil quality, and there was only a smidgen
of difference in the protein
levels, in the crude protein and phosphorus levels,
even with a lower
plants.
Quality habitat or soils.
So
that tells me
Marcus Lashley.
Oh yeah.
So Marcus had a great example. He was on a beach and found a little blackberry growing, barely making it, and that was one of his samples. And sent it to the lab and looked at the nutrition, you could not have distinguished the nutrient quality in that struggling little blackberry growing in a sand dune from a blackberry that you would get in the hills or in the Delta or around here.
Yeah, under a burn pine plantation.
That's right.
Well, creation is something.
Now the difference.
It wasn't a lot of it.
I'm talking about the
Yeah.
quality of it, but the biomass production is what's different.
But that goes back, and that's part of y'all's business. Maximizing the habitat makes more quantity.
That's right.
And if people will listen, and we have some hard-headed ones that we work with, and just people that know, but producing sunlight, I mean, that's pretty easy. And look, me being as crazy, look, I'm down here hacking and squirting because
I hate hacking squirting.
Well, I didn't understand the benefits, and I'll admit to it when I'm wrong. I love that hardwood, and I didn't know that I was allowing trees this big to destroy me.
Yep.
Now, no more. But I mean, that's what you got to learn. Good deer managers,
always sort of adjusting.
Good deer managers, good people, good investors are people that listen.
Right.
And if it's something better, you implement it.
You got to be willing to change your mind.
You got to change your mind. It's all about, life is about a change. We're changing every day. Habitat's changing. If you don't believe it, we're going to have a tornado shortly that they say come through here. It just takes
dark.
Yeah, I know, but it takes that long to change. To change it. You went behind these tornadoes when they go through these tracks. I mean, it's just it's just different.
Right.
But you got to change, and the kind of research and the kind of stuff that you have produced, and it went on our dime, but y'all did it at Mississippi State. We need to look at it, and you've got it where people can look at it.
That's right.
Now they can pick the phone up and call him personally.
Yeah.
Or send him an email and hire him, and then he can come out and help them put it in the stand.
An expert at dumbing it down for people like
right.
That's
well,
it's just right there.
Oh,
all
come
right,
on.
let's talk about.
We're gonna get in a variety.
Let's talk about
protein,
food plot, seed choices, plant choices. Let's talk about ones that you like, that you've done here.
Okay.
Scenario.
And I'll tell you ones that I've done, and then let's bounce off. Look, me and him talked 2 weeks ago. I told him kind of my rating on. We're talking about vetch. We're really happy because we have found some hulled, clean vetch seed, and we didn't have it last year.
Right.
And it was a flop.
Yep.
I mean, me and you both admit said, "Oh, we ain't planting no more yet." I mean, just because it was crazy. I mean, we planted in May, and I was having it sprouting in August.
And it was so hard to get vetch.
Oh my God!
If you got that.
It was just
glad to get it. But.
It was bad stuff. So kudos to whoever's cleaning it.
That's right.
Dude, I appreciate you.
We all appreciate it.
We look, the deer managers across the southeast United States really appreciate it. What did you tell me about that? It's kind of like the pronghorn antelope. What you told me about the vetch seed?
Oh, it's one of the few, if not the only, native plant to the southeastern U.S.
That's wild. Nowhere other pronghorn antelope, same thing.
Is that?
Yeah.
It's a native.
That's pretty
plant.
cool.
Yeah.
I threw that pronghorn antelope. You like that, didn't you?
I'm still trying to make the connection.
They're in no other country but the United States.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that
That went right by me.
Yeah. But
So-
it's a good species.
It is. But so let's kind of big picture.
Let's do it.
What makes it a good species? So I'll give you my take on that.
Okay.
I think there are so many really good plants that are good deer food plot plants. You just have to figure out what's going to grow well in your deer density context and in your soils.
Yeah.
And so here's how I step it down, is that if you're in a place where you can have either a low deer density or you can have really big food plots, nothing's going to beat a soybean.
That's right.
In terms of biomass production
They're the
and
king.
extraction,
Yeah, they're the
soybean
king.
is
Yep.
still the king. Then we get into something, now we start getting into, there's always a little bit of a trade-off. It's like soybean is at one end of the continuum, meaning It's really, really tastes good. It is full of nutrients. It grows very quickly.
Yep.
If the soil conditions are right, 2 weeks later, you got a small little field.
You got to stand.
You got to stand.
It's on the high end of the matrix for preference and protein.
Checks all the boxes.
Yep. And fast growing.
Yep, that's right. Big seed. Big seeded legume grows quick.
Jumps up.
So now we move into, okay, well, what's kind of close to that? Well, cowpea.
Yeah.
Regular old
iron and clay
cowpea.
pea. Yeah.
Iron,
black-eyed pea. Same
all
thing.
that stuff. Preference will not be quite as good. I think it still has very similar.
They're more
nutrients.
stemmy. Wouldn't you agree? They're more stemmy.
Yeah, a little bit. And what's interesting about the cowpea is I use the word a lot, a novel forage. That's something we talk about. And novel forage can mean that a deer won't eat it unless it sees its mother eat it. You know, she has experience with it. Her fawn eats it, and then they try it, they like it. They had a good return.
Okay.
You know, nutritionally, it said, things are good. It checked the boxes, and they keep eating it. But so the cowpea is one of those, the very first year you plant it, you may not see a lot of browsing on it.
If they've never seen it.
If they've never been exposed to it before.
Gotcha.
You've heard stories, too.
Oh, yeah.
The same, we're going to go to the cooler
Grow that
season
tall.
example.
That's right. Yeah.
Brassicas are this way a lot. It might take a year or two
Yeah.
for them to start using. But once deer start utilizing and get used to over there in that plot every July or cowpeas, they're going to start eating those cowpeas.
They're gonna hit you hard.
They're going to hit them hard.
Somebody might do 1 year like a brassica or something and spend a lot of money on it and just it doesn't get utilized and they just
It
walk
doesn't
away.
work.
Maybe that's not a 1 year thing. That's a good
right.
takeaway from that.
Yeah. Okay, so now enter the picture, and you got lab is very similar, but those are all those big
Viney,
legumes. Let's just all put those in that category. Well, then we've got the kind of a second tier in preference. That would be something like Alice clover.
Yes, I agree with you.
And so when you get in some of the, so I'll stereotype here.
It's really got good protein levels.
It does.
But for some reason the taste is not. They don't just mow
right.
it down.
That's
I don't
right.
know. It's just weird.
And
I'm planting some next week. But it's really a good dummy crop.
Right. And we always just look
You
at
can plant it and it's easy to grown.
right.
Broadcast it.
I know what dummy means.
Yeah, you looked at me that you wasn't dumb. I was just saying, I wasn't looking at you. Said, hey, look,
I got it.
Yeah,
Hell, Teddy's even laughing.
yeah. Teddy says, hey, man, roll tide.
That's Alice clover is one of those plants. It's more popular if the stereotype in here of I lease timberland. And we've only got a few little quarter-acre, half-acre places,
Loading
loading decks that we get.
Yeah.
And so those are going to be smaller. If you tried to do soybean or cow, they're going to be wiped out. And so just go ahead and start with Alice clover. So that was for the longest time. That was mainly the most popular. Well, then enters, and it's been around a long time. Y'all may know the name, but I remember when I was an undergraduate, a guy named Joe Hamilton, founder of QDMA.
QDMA.
Yeah, Joe Hamilton was doing
South
that
Carolina,
in the low country of South Carolina. That's exactly right. Didn't catch on as much. People were using it, but it really, with us, is one of those to where it's a good in-between. And the in-between part is it is high preference, maybe not quite as much as soybean, but it's still very high preferred. The only knock on it, and there's always like a plus and a minus for everyone, it is slow growing.
Yeah.
And so whereas you might be in June and have a soybean plot that can be rocking, your joint vetch is
just creeping.
But here's your trade-off now. So that's what I love about this. There's always a trade-off. But deer vetch can withstand the browsing that would eradicate a soybean field.
Something about that plant, when you bite it, it's throwing. Throwing. I agree. Yeah.
The base of it is almost woody, like a woody stem.
Yes, and it throws off.
And it just grows laterally, and the deer can browse it, and it maintains that rate of growth essentially until frost. So it's one of these, like we all preach, because it's best management practices, to separate your warm season areas and your cool season areas.
Yeah.
So nutritionally, both of those are available at the same time. You never clean the plate entirely, but you can also bow hunt over your summer food plot deer vetch.
Right.
Yeah,
and a lot of peas would wait late and plant cow peas for a bow stand.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now,
I've done that.
I personally, and you know this, I double crop every one of my fields. So the ones that we looked at today, took pictures, I'll come back and drill right through them, drill right through the vetch, But I look at it as, but I've also got Durana clovers around every one of them. I've got different things, some natural succession stuff. But
it's like what we looked at today. You got some areas in there where you've got those cereal grains still standing from that fall plot. You know, it's right in between those early succession nesting and brooding areas. And you've got that cereal grain.
There were turkeys in every field.
Clover and cowpeas coming up. It's just a smorgasbord.
It was cool. It was a cool thing because some of those sandier sites, and I wanted to plant it. I wanted to plant vetch in April. I've never done it because I've always waited for the Valenza, and plus I couldn't have planted it in my heavy ground because it floods. Yeah. We've had 15 inches of rain already,
a bunch,
in the last 30 days, and so I planted them early. Bronson, I've never, and we're gonna get into how we planted them because me and you both come up with some pretty easy, really, and don't have to have fancy stuff to do it,
right?
And great results,
right?
But I've got some of the tallest vetch at this point. I've got them, and really, I planted the cowpeas mixed in there with them because I was having to run the drill over it anyway. So I just put a light mess in there just to mix it, and they'll bomb it first, but then they'll come back and it'll be nothing but like I told Brent, I said, you got cowpeas in it now, we can see. In 30 days, it'll be a vetch field.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what I
assume that those cowpeas, and we'll put up some video from out there, I'm going to say it sort of protects that vetch unless the vetch get up. Even though the vetch is more browse tolerant, it still lets it establish, I would think.
But, looking at that, Bronson, and Brent took some pictures of it, but I had some clover, I had some vetch that tall, and I had those peas. So every bite, that we're getting back to your study, every bite was a good bite.
Right.
So, I got 7 or 8 acres of that planted. And I'm gonna let the fence 2 more weeks, then I'll drop it down. So 1st of June is theirs, and that'll be my lap. And our Valenza usually stays to the end of May.
Right.
And then it folds down, and then it folds up, and then now we're kind of at that point where. I got to have something. That's right. I got to have something. And so anyway, but I ain't planted my corn. And anyway, so
all those you just named are legumes, right?
Yes.
Just to set the soybean, cowpeas, Alice clover. Those are all legumes.
Yep.
Nitrogen fixer legumes.
That's right.
Yeah. And that's really, you plant corn in the summer.
It's not a summer,
but it's not a summer crop,
right?
Because we're, millets. Milo, grain sorghum, corn. It's planted in the summer, but it's not utilized to the fall.
Right. You want it to go to seed.
You want it to go to seed.
Right. Yeah.
Sun hemps and things, I don't know much about them. I don't know about you.
Very little experience.
Yeah.
That what was 5 years, 10 years, whenever it came on the scene. Oh my goodness!
Everybody had to have
it. We got to have it, and boy,
that's like lab, same thing.
Hadn't that kind of fizzled?
It has. One thing, it's banned in Mississippi.
It's illegal to plant it.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's a hemp. It's a hemp seed. But anyway, I think people. Maybe, I don't know. But I think we've had a farmer that has planted for some cover crop, and I'm gonna tell you what I like as good as anything is the bedding. I mean, Bronson, it was that tall,
vertical,
a bit taller than that.
It was vertical. And I'm gonna tell you what it did. We did get a snow this year. You know that. You got one starful. We did get a snow. It didn't fall. When all the sage grasses and even some of my native warm season grass kind of fell in that snow, that stuff stayed up. So it's probably a little stemmier.
Yeah, it's got to be.
The little structure. And it stayed up till he drilled through it, a month ago maybe? He's got corn about that tall growing in it now, so he drilled right through it. So, but, the levels are high. I think the protein levels are high. Yeah. It looks real stemmy to me.
It does
to me now.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, man, cows love it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But,
they can handle a lot more roughness.
Yes.
That's a grass-eating
little
animal.
Stronger stuff.
Yeah.
But, I
could see, and we walked that last year with Kenny.
Yeah, the edge, outside.
You can see around the edge where they really browse it heavy. I feel like there's a short window in there where they browse it, but I think it races out of that stage.
Well, I think you was talking before, anytime it's young. I mean,
and you could tell where it had been browsed. That new growth behind the browse is like they kept they kept going back to that.
But what I did like about it, Bronson, he planted it, and this may give us. You remember that date that you just said, that August, September date. He combined his corn. He would cut it first. Okay, so he's got beans behind this one. Mm-hmm. So I was wrong. He combined his corn. So he would combine it September, and we always blame it on the farmers when our Mennonites mess our dove hunt up. And cutting the corn.
Some of that in August. Remember that? Yeah. Seth and them had a contract.
But he planted it
early.
He planted it after he combined it. So hot. In 2 weeks, it was this tall.
We're talking sun hemp.
Yes. He planted it in August behind his combining of corn. And he planted sun hemp. And now it didn't make seed, but it made leaves, which deer, timing. And so I'm just throwing this out there. It's some more research to look at, but he planted it late because I witnessed it, and you did too. And it was that tall.
But he was doing this from a
cover
farming.
Crop. Yes, because it pulls up. Yeah. The way he explained to me, it pulls up some pretty good nutrients.
Okay.
And it makes a good long roots in that bed.
Soil compaction.
Yes. Okay. So he drilled right through it, and he's really liked it because he's done it 2 or 3 times, 2 or 3 years. And I want to pick his brain a little more.
Does he then add another cover crop to that, or that's it?
That's it.
So he follows up in August.
So he does not have a green cover crop, but he planted that stuff in it, and now first frost, it was out like a light. Mm-hmm. But you think about that. If you had a field, just say you had a field that you don't plant any food plot in, and you wanted them a late crop, it could be. I'm going to try it because I didn't know you could plant that late. Mm-hmm. And I said, man, you ain't had any rain on it. He said,
good bow.
He told me 1/2 inch and something. And I mean, it was solid. Now, I don't know what his rating was. Okay. But I will find out. But it was a solid stand. I mean, he planted probably 300 acres when you figure them 2 big fields.
Yeah.
And so whatever it was.
Well, if he does it again this year, let's go look at it.
Okay. He will. He'll do it again. Mm-hmm. And I mean, he just did it right there. And I was pretty excited about it, but I was kind of like,
kind of sneaky.
Well, I was thinking it's going to pull my deer over there, but we didn't see time too. But we didn't see super browse on it. But we did see browse around the edge. I mean, they eat it 50, 60 feet. Mm-hmm. Eat every bit of it.
I'm trying to remember what time or what month.
It was in the fall because remember me and you and Kenny went in there and went no snakes out, so it was in the fall. So it would have been October when we looked at it because it was already that tall.
Interesting point of reference.
You always reference around a snake, But anyway, it's something to think about.
Yeah.
Late like that, because most time you've exhausted most of the plants August, September. Mm-hmm. And
I like how you've and this is from experimentation.
Yeah.
You tried a bunch of different things. You're in the field I bet a week doesn't go by. You're not there looking at them. But maybe people can appreciate this. It took a number of years. You planting different things, and you're figuring out this on my land
works.
This is my 12-month system.
Yeah.
This is my process.
Yeah.
There could be other people, Chris, that might be honest and say, I'm never going to get over there and do a warm season food plot. Is there anything I can do? Well, I tell you what, you can do pretty darn good with some of your different clovers now.
Yeah.
So you talked about Balanza, but believe it or not, Balanza is in the middle of the curve in terms of its maturation date and folding up May into May like that. You start adding Berseem, you start adding an arrowleaf, you start adding a red clover.
Right.
You can get into the very heat of summer with August. A single fall planting.
If you put the right stuff in there.
That's right. That's right.
I like that.
So that's really empowering for people of what you can do. But you got to get out of the mindset of, I'm just going to do a cereal grain to hunt over it and forget about it.
And
but you got to plant it at that same time too. When you're doing that clover, that's that time to be
exactly.
You got to be thinking 6 or 8 months ahead of when when you're going to establish that.
You could
and
do
maybe
that.
Coming back there in the springtime and going, ooh, my cereal grains are done. This is clover time. It's April now. This is time for clover to dominate this site until August. I'm gonna have to get in here with some clethodim and a grass herbicide.
That's what I was just going to say. Hey, you cannot sit at the house, travel ball field, and I know we got kids, but you got to
make
put
time
a little
to go
work.
maintain.
And I can show you, and you saw it because I wanted to put my head down when I was riding by it. It was on my own place, but I was able to spray one part of it. You saw it, but when we turned it to tea, I didn't. You see all them black-eyed Susies in my clover?
I got video of it.
It got too wet. It got too wet, and I wasn't able to spray it. And it's night. It'd probably be
It
something.
never looks like that.
It's night and day. It never looks like that. But this one, where I sprayed, $1 million.
Yeah.
And it was that one treatment. But I couldn't get rained on us, and I didn't get the other. It's that tall.
Your
Clover's
road was
there.
blown out right there for a while,
Yeah,
too.
but the clover's there, but all the other stuff
Yeah.
is that tall.
Yep.
It made me sick, but I just didn't get it.
I'm glad we're on this because this is one of the most frequent questions I get on our DMs or from listeners.
Yeah. What to spray.
What to spray
On clover.
How do I spray my clover? What do I spray to
And
treat
you just
my clover?
said clinthidine. Yeah.
For killing the grass,
Yeah.
and there could be a whole bunch. I can't keep up.
Yeah.
With all the herbicides there
They've
are.
changing their names as
I call Mitt.
yes.
I call Mitt. For
Mitt
that.
says, "What's the active ingredient?" I said, "Hell, I don't know." And then I look. I'm not real good at Latin. I'm like, so now what I'll do? Hey, I plug it in my phone first, and it'll kick it up. Then Mitt.
Yeah,
it's
AI.
so-and-so.
AI is
yeah,
our
yeah,
friend.
yeah, right.
But but clinthidine, and at one time it was called Post, and it was called Stressor, and it was. I mean, they got tons.
Arrow,
and I mean, you
yeah.
got different ones, but
But
the active
mainly
ingredients.
it's kind of two camps. It's
2,4-DB.
let's kill the grass
That's right.
with the
Grass is.
specific
Filling your
herbicide.
fall
typically
grasses
them.
that you had.
Well, and how about
It's
this?
summer grasses.
Hey, summer
Coming up.
grasses and kill your wheat, your oats.
That's what I
out
say.
of that
They're starting to
clover.
finesse, but you're
Kill it.
Kill it out.
Go right ahead.
Because
Kill it.
what's going to happen, it's going to be this tall, and the clover's still going to be here. So what you want is spraying it just like this.
That's right.
And that's how it usually does. And look, I spray 90% of this place with a Ranger and a 50-gallon tank. You would think I got a 200-gallon tank. I do it with a 50-gallon tank. You know, Ranger, you can run 35 miles an hour back up and fill it up, but I can control it better with that tank. I spray my roadsides. I try to spray all my roadsides that I can quick enough because of the turkeys. I keep them down. I don't want them nesting on the side of the road because nesting in clover is a failure because it's going to fall.
Yeah.
And then they're exposed. And then
and that's
I mean,
funny.
that's the thing that
that's a good point when you
I don't like
you know you're in the weeds with a good land manager because all the talk is more nesting, more. You also got to be very particular about where you don't want them, where you want to discourage them from nesting.
Because the problem is if they nest them there, I'm either going to hit them mechanically or something's going to get them going down the road.
Yep.
And I don't want them nesting there. I want them nesting in higher spots, which you know this. You're a biologist. You're not just smart on deer. You're smart about everything. But they're going to go to where they feel like they're safe. And then, anyway, we had some nest in Valenza. And me and Mitt was nervous about it. And we talked to Wes about, hey, man, we've had these turkeys nest in our Balenza. Then the Balenza lays down, and the turkey is gone.
Exposed.
They're exposed. Crows get them. And he said, they'll learn. He said, it's probably a young hen. She'll get in it. She'll know it's a failure. She won't do it anymore. And he's right. It worked, and you still, So that made me feel good because I was like, remember, I started mowing it.
Yeah.
'Cause I was nervous. I didn't want it to get, it'll get pretty tall. And it's perfect for a nesting hen.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's still for that, like me and you said, that overlap of that good high nutrition. And it's so palatable when it's older because it's got that hollow stem.
Hollow stem. Yep.
And they love it. I mean, they love it. You can.
And what's really, we talked about some of these other crops, and what's good about deer vetch and all the pros and cons. Balanza clover. One reason I became so enamored with it was our primary. We got a lot of research spots, but one of the primary places we use is regular old Oktibbeha County, flat
woods.
wet
Yeah.
clay. pH is going to start out about 4.8, 4.9. And we do all the things that we preach about, but yet it holds water, and you got to just pour tons and tons and tons of lime.
Yeah.
And you couldn't tell with the Balanza clover.
No. It's a hoarder.
It was amazing.
It's a nutrient hoarder.
How well it grew, and even with its feet wet,
Yes.
it did. And so that's some things that Mitt and I that we've been experimenting with is we look at the topography of a field. And so we can even go in and show you, it'll be clear as day when you see the field, is that end of the field is more well-drained, more upland, great place for crimson clover. The bottom part, great place for Balanza clover. Yeah. We got a little bit of variety. We have some different maturation dates, and works great.
But Bronson, let's because we don't. These are mistakes that people make. If you do fixation Balanza, don't mix it with any other clovers because it's going to take over all of them. It'll get them. It gets them because it does. And
in the same state.
Yeah, I see people say, "Hey man, I mix some Durana white clover in with my Balanza."
Wasted it pretty much.
Hunter did. I said, no, don't do that. Just because Balanza, you don't have to spray Balanza. It takes care of itself.
Yeah.
It takes all the wheat and everything out. So the gasoline side of Balanza, I didn't spray it.
Yeah.
That's right. I don't know what it does to it. It outcompetes it.
Yeah.
So any of our smaller type clovers, like any of our white clovers, majority of our white clovers that get from here down,
Right.
put them by themselves. Don't you agree? That way you can spray and release them. Put them by themselves. Your Balanza, make it by itself. And I'm going to tell you, it is a heavy, heavy reseeder. It will stay, and when you let it go to seed head, it'll be there. So
you got it.
You got it.
Prolific
It's like all the
reseeder.
negative things we say about ryegrass,
that's
but
right.
now this is a positive.
This is a positive.
It reseeds itself.
That's a good point.
What I done with it, I put it in fields that I knew turkeys didn't use a lot. But deer liked it. Remember how? And I would do it. So I'll have Balanza here, but I'll have Durana over here.
Yeah.
Or down the roadsides. I do not put it down my roadsides at all because I manage my roadsides. And but I put it in the fields that feed just deer, or I place it may here.
Not drained well. That's the other thing.
You know,
it's not
it
good
has-
necessary anyway if it tends to have water standing. So
Look, they know
perfect spot for
they
it.
know we're dog friendly, Teddy. No, little PT. But that's just mistakes that people make, and I hate for a guy to spend $165, $70 on a bag of white clover, whether it's Imperial, Durana, Bobby and them's Clover Plus, whatever. I don't want them to mix it in
And it get out competed by the
and maybe you're gonna say, well, man, y'all said it was gonna stay till. Well, you put it with the wrong species, and so let's talk to people about our planting style, because I think that's a cool on the smaller, the vetch and the Atlas clover.
Okay.
Kind of what you started doing, and it's kind of we call it the redneck planting way. And Dudley mentions it a lot of times, throw and grow or whatever you want to call it.
No-till.
But poor man's no-till. But it is very,
Very effective.
very effective. Even better than planting it with a $30,000 drill. Because I have failed.
We saw it just now.
I failed last year, year before last. I tried to drill it all, and I just put it too deep.
A little too deep.
I did. And look, I know how to run a drill. I mean, I even pulled the things, I let it drop, and it still. So kind of, I tell you what I used.
Okay.
I used a $100 Moultrie spinner, spin cast feeder on a four-wheeler. And I went in and I did drill some because I want a little exposed ground. You don't even have to do that. You've proved that. But that stuff will just say our normal food plot stuff is this tall, okay? Our wheat stuff is still that tall. So I went in and seeded it and then went in with a bush hog and I sprayed it because I wanted to kill any of those stuff that's coming up. And I just bush hogged it down on top of it. 100% stand.
Yeah.
Looks like $1 million. We just looked at it and Brent's got some pictures of it. And so I did one, and Mitt's going to get on my tail, so it ain't regenerative. So I did no-till, so Mitt be proud of him. So I did no-till a section of that field, left it all standing, and then I cleaned it, like we said, bush hogged it, to see the difference. Is it good or bad? I'm going to be honest with you, it wasn't, and I didn't crimp it, so that kept me, not crimping it made it not regenerative, I guess. He let me know that one earlier, so I didn't crimp it. But anyway,
Sounds good.
I did drill through some heavy material and left it to see. Wasn't a lot of difference in it, was it? I mean,
no, the cowpea, the vetch was established probably just about as well.
Yeah.
The cowpeas weren't.
It was ugly. But I had
from a wildlife
it was the
diversity
best.
You had in there.
Because I had crimson clover that already headed. I had some Balenza that was being ate on. So I had all these different species. Cereal grains that was headed. Then under it, I had vetch and some cowpeas here that was coming through. But that's a good stand. I mean, that's absolutely. And really, I didn't do nothing. I didn't even bush all get down. I just seeded it across it, and the rain did the rest. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you tell me. I think, look, there you go. Really, all you got is your time and a four-wheeler spreader. Because it's little seed now.
Yeah, it's little. It's like dealing with clover.
It's really almost a little smaller than clover. I think I did 15 pounds for the acre. Okay.
That you drilled.
I drilled 10 and broadcasted 15.
Yeah.
So if you went to 25 pounds the acre,
which is on a broadcast, that's what we recommend.
Yeah, so, and I think it's a home run.
You know, all of this would be, it would probably come down to getting a good stand with the lesser amount of seed you spread. So a very, very effective way to seed deer vetch would be burn down with herbicide.
He likes a water bottle, I can already tell you.
Yeah. Burn down with herbicide.
Yes.
Disc. Spread Cultipack.
So you do like Cultipacking vetch?
Sure, absolutely. But now we're talking about levels of good, and we're talking about good enough. So
if you're talking about extra work too.
If you were I want to win the county fair with the greatest germination and survival with the least amount of seed.
Give me some dirt, and then we'll put it on there.
That's right, and I'm going to evenly spread it, and I'm going to press it in the ground with a cultipacker. Yeah. But what works 90% of that as good is go in there and burn it down with the herbicide, wait 2 or 3 weeks, and go over top with your four-wheeler or with a hand spreader and do 25 pounds an acre, and you're going to be real happy.
You're going to get a stand.
You're going to get a good stand.
And now, let's go ahead and tell people, I like people to know on this podcast, it's $250 a bag.
It's high.
It's high, $230 to $250, but it's clean.
But
hulled vetch.
Right.
But at the end of the day, 25 pounds an acre, $125, how much corn did you spend filling that feeder up?
Mm-hmm.
You did that a week. You put $125 every 3 days in that sucker.
It's a value.
And this thing is going to last
until frost kills it.
Frost kills it. So October, November, and it is high quality. They like it. You can't see him, Brett. I want you to get a picture of him. But that deer with the non-typical with the thing, the first year I ever planted was 10 years ago, 10 or 12 years ago. I planted right back here. Somebody said, hey, you ought to try it, Chris. I said, okay, I'll try it. So I planted it back here. We watched him and 5 bucks standing off that porch eating at it in the middle of the day. It was 100 degrees. I've never seen them, about 2 species. Soybeans, they'll do it. Peanuts, they'll do it. And I watch them eat that vetch. And several people I put that vetch on. So Chris, they'll be out there in the middle of the hottest part of the year in there eating that vetch. They like it.
It's good stuff.
It is. It's good. Yeah. It's good. And
it doesn't look like a traditional.
No, it looks weird.
It looks like a weed.
Yeah. It does look like partridge pea. It favors partridge pea a lot.
Let me add one thing, Chris. I think we always need to think about it like this. And we did a similar pencil to paper with like Balanza clover. Mm-hmm. Me and a colleague of mine was like the sticker shock. Was this clover is going to be cheaper, this one is a lot more expensive, and so people look at it and go, oh my gosh, I just look at the price of the bag.
Yeah.
But what you have to factor in is the price of the bag. So let's just standardize and say, what did it cost to buy that 50 pounds of seed? Mm-hmm. Now, the next part of that calculation is how much of that bag do you plant per acre?
Correct.
So you've got some of these where you might plant 50 pounds per acre. Mm-hmm. Some of it might be 25 pounds per acre. Mm-hmm. Some might be 5 pounds per acre, like with the white clover. And then that's part of it. So now that more expensive seed gets a lot cheaper when you only have to plant half as much seed. Right. So now I get double the acreage out of that bag. And then the last thing you make is, on average, how much production or biomass, and now you change your estimate from I paid $300 for a 50-pound bag to the amount of money I paid for 1,000 pounds of forage.
I paid 10 cents a ton for
That's
forage,
where
whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's where
right.
the rubber meets the road right there.
And listen, once you kill one of these that have been eating on it, you don't even think about it.
Well, the other thing
I mean, you really,
the
you
other
know
thing
what I
is,
mean?
and I've heard you on other podcasts, when you get into looking at the calories that a deer needs in a day, the actual tonnage.
And
what
y'all
they
did
can
that
eat in a
study
day,
was cool.
That flips the narrative, or that flips
yeah.
that formula on what that cost is.
That's right. You know, when you
Ain't no
talk about a doe in late gestation or beginning lactation, and we frame everything to your typical human, ours, about 2,000 calories a day. That's what we think to maintain body weight, not gain, not lose, kind of maintain. You got an old doe that needs about 10,000.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
her
remember
metabolism.
that research. Mama has got to have good nutrition while she's inside, good nutrition while she's giving him milk, for him to get his. Bronson, you brought up the king, and everybody likes to hear him. Everybody asks me, that's around soybeans. Let's talk about soybeans for a minute.
Okay.
And you can grow soybeans on a smaller level. I'm talking 5 acres or less. Okay, nothing less than an acre, but 5 acres and less. But you got to fence it.
Absolutely, you got to protect them.
And so here's a costly. So I got roughly 60 acres of openings. Okay. So I made my mind up. I'm going to plant. I got a good deal. One of my farmer buddies, hey, I got some extra beans. I'll take them. Okay. This is before you caved me into putting the fence up. So I planted 67 acres of soybeans. I sat on the drill. I planted my tail off. You remember that, Brett? I planted and planted and planted. And I said, buddy,
It was the year before we started putting fences up.
It was the year before. And I'll tell you why. I said, man, I got them. I said, I've got every field beans. They can't eat them. They can't stop them. I got them. If they come up, they popped up, they looked like $1 million. In 2.5 weeks, I didn't have none but stems.
Yep.
Remember that, Brent?
I
They
take
ate
that back. The next year, I think you tried peanuts.
Yes.
Then we went to fence and beans.
Everything.
Peanuts could take a little more browse.
Yeah, that's what they said. And my peanut buddy said, they can't eat them up. We've been planting them for years. I said, we're going to see. Because I said, I got them to eat them up. Well, guess what? They can't eat them up. They can eat them.
They can keep up with them.
So now, let's fast forward. I plant 10 acres of beans. I put a 2-strand hot wire fence up, McGallagher. We've said it before on the previous podcast. I think I had $600 in the charger and the line.
Is that 10 acres that first time?
Yeah,
The first
10 acres. And me a water hose reel. I'll tell you why you got to have a water hose reel. Because you can reuse that line.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And get you a water hose reel.
Really?
That's your game plan. 4 T-posts if you feel square.
Corner.
And then your little plastic post. Mm-hmm. So I can feed with a good 4 and 5 bean, which I do like Eagle beans. I don't know how you feel. I like Eagle beans.
Yes.
They're solid.
Yep. Eagle
is a solid company.
Good product.
They got a good bean. Mm-hmm. But it's only Mitt, it's a 5 or 4 late bean. But it's a forage bean. It'll get that tall. And
we left the fence on it too long.
45 days, 30 to 45 days, I drop that fence. I can feed every deer on their land and my neighbors on 10 acres. And they cannot eat it up. They'll hit it, and if it rains, here it comes. Yeah. And they'll run back over here. They'll start on the outside edge, and they'll start working away. Then some will get in the middle. But then they'll eat it down. You've seen them do it. Then they'll go, and the other stuff will get higher. They'll go over here. So when it rains, this other stuff starts sprouting because you let it make a good, strong root system.
Yes.
And those beans, 30, 45 days. Mm-hmm. But that shows you the difference. You don't have, and I got a high deer density on some of these farms. When you agree, high, super high. Probably should shoot more does than I do. But that fence is a game changer. Anybody, I don't care if it's a small property, big property, you put that electric fence around them, and if you want to, and a little cheat sheet, put you some tin foil, aluminum foil, put a little peanut butter on the edge, they'll stick their nose to it. That's an education.
Another thing we learned too is that top strand doesn't have to be as high as you think it.
Yeah,
like,
no.
You're not trying to prevent them from jumping.
That's right.
That you think about a deer standing about where that nose is.
And you're going to have that one matriarch doe, the smart. She's going to go over there, and then her little ones will jump. And
You'll find it tore up somewhere.
You may have
find the fence tore up.
Because they're like a crawfish. When it hits them, they running straight as hard as they can hit the other side. And you may have to shoot her. But the majority of them, they're going to stay out of them until you. And it's the funniest thing, when I cut that fence off, Bronson, and I cut it off and take it down.
They know pretty quick.
Within 5 hours, they're in them eating.
I'll be done.
Now, they've had their ass shocked off for 45 days, and then we cut that thing off and pop those, and within 5 hours, they're in there eating.
Look, I know guys.
It's crazy.
I know guys in the
Yeah,
Delta that would fence beans.
Yeah.
And then when bow season, they would like gap it in one spot.
And let them have
for bow,
some, yeah.
For bow, but to create a funnel, create a bottleneck
get 'em
for
in
bow
there.
hunting, that's lethal.
But
absolutely,
it is the king of forage, and if you can get them, and Mitt has put me on. I think he shared it with you, and I'm doing 10 acres down here, but I'm carrying them to full production, not planting forage beans for a fall food plot.
Yeah, for the grain.
Unbelievable.
Sure.
Yeah. He put me, last year I tried it, I've never done it, and I only made like 15, 20 bushel beans, and I had 30, 40 deer out in there eating them. And I thought to myself, So there again, you don't know it all, always listen. Another guy done it. So now I'm planting forage for them. So I got vetch, peas, and beans that I'm going to let them eat. But then I've got 10 acres of beans, 5 over here and 5 over here, or 5 and 3, 8 acres, I think, that I'm going to grow to full. I'm not going to let them have them. I'm going to grow them all the way till they produce.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you get 30 or 40 bushel to the acre, that's a good bit of. It was the best fall food plot I had. Now, why is that? Why did they like them that much?
Carbohydrates. Yeah. Carbohydrate. That's all the grain. That's the
loved
attraction for
it, man.
corn, whether it's out of a bag or
they would open and fall out on the ground.
Yeah. That's
And-
the draw of the carbohydrates. Now, here's how you sweeten that up. That's what Mitt did so effectively. So now, because the prior spring, the prior fall, winter, and into spring, because you planted something like Balanza clover, you allowed it to go to seed. So your fall food plot is taken care of.
Yeah, because it's going to come up under that soybean.
Now you come in and do those beans, and they grow and do that, and they go to seed and set and all that, and now you've had your first frost and all this. Now you got that, looks like Iowa, that standing soybean and the carbohydrates, and underneath it you've got a carpet
of Balanza clover.
Balanza clover.
Yeah.
So now they put their head down, and they've got high protein.
And I
lift
guess
their head
you
up,
could,
and they can eat carbohydrate.
And I guess you could essentially overseed right over the top of the standing ones, and let of anything you wanted. A wheat or cereal rye or if you don't have that and seed. Now I don't like riding through them, but what's it gonna matter? I mean, you go down the rows and spread it out, and then
that's where Brent comes in with his drone, and he just seeds the
I didn't
wheat
think
right on
about a
top
drone
of it.
seeder. Yeah, I didn't think about that. I've never done it before, but you the big shot that can do it.
I am.
If I've got a drone problem,
So humble.
it's coming from Brent. Now, I can't even run a TAR 2600s. I ain't gonna run no drone. I can tell you. I did run Nintendo one time, and I wasn't good at it. Mike Tyson Punch Out.
You don't seem like sitting inside playing a video game.
Played Mike Tyson Punch Out one time, and I could never get past that
Got
second
punched
guy.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mo Tyson would get you back then. But yeah, it's your preference of beans versus cowpeas. I mean, if you protect them,
Cost difference, I guess. What's real quick, and not to just
for
belabor,
40
because I could talk to you
$40
for
for a
hours.
bag.
But what's the
Something like
what's
that.
the protein difference?
Yeah,
What's
what's
top of your hand protein?
they're pretty
negligible.
Okay.
So soybean, I think on average would be a little bit better, but
29, 26, 29.
But when you start getting above 20%, it's diminishing return.
Right.
At that point.
They don't need any
heard-
more.
No.
Man,
Yeah.
What's the vetch? What's the vetch?
Oh, you can easily get up to 20 with the vetch as well.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
18, 20. Mhm.
So if it's the size of your property is how much you can do, and available space you have. So maximizing that available space is really the key to the game. And whether if you got 40 acres, 200 acres, or 1,000 acres, whatever, but maximizing those openings.
Yep.
And look, I double crop both of mine. When it's time to plant, I drill right through or plant right through beans that are being ate on. It's just time I do it. And but I've always keep something else for them to eat there.
Well, a little detail that I don't think you mentioned, I may have missed it, but I think that is very critical, is that how often or the intensity that a deer is going to challenge that fence is directly related to how hungry that deer is.
That's a good point.
It's a good point.
It's like people ask, will a deer eat that? And the answer to the will a deer eat that question is always, how hungry is the deer? Is
He'll
it
eat a lot.
or not?
Yeah.
Pine bark if he's hungry.
Yeah.
One reason what you did is effective is because the deer had choices around you. So it could go over here and eat that clover.
It wasn't worth getting shocked to burn to go get.
That's right. But then once you eliminated that fence,
that's
right. Now, of course
they got it all.
They got
and
it
it goes back to we hear the smorgasbord.
Yes.
But that is really, and Bronson, I want you to come back when we can talk about some native.
Sure.
Browse. I mean, that's a good one too.
Yeah, I'm visualizing with the example he just laid out, and 400 yards away, you've got a spot that you'd run a fire through. So there's still plenty of forbs there. In between there and the beans you're protecting, you've got a couple of different varieties of oaks. They're going to be dropping acorns at later.
Well, I'm trying to keep the best type of
a lot of food there.
The best type of foods, and I don't have any pines. If I had some pines, I could run some good fire and some honeysuckle and some greenbrier and some ragweed and stuff like that. I don't have that in the prairie.
Right.
We don't have those species down here.
Yeah.
And so we're setting back like some of those thickets. Remember, went in that mulcher and set them back just because they had gotten stemmy.
Right.
And I say that shrubby. Let me put shrubby. And
So we've gone a while, and it doesn't have to be a drag out long answer. We could do maybe a few hot takes.
Yeah.
I've got a good friend at work. He's been on here with us before, Grantham. They hunt some barge timberland, big hunting club.
Managed with chemical.
And he uses trace mineral a lot. He puts it out in January, February, towards the end of deer season. Some of his last times there, he'll put it out, and then he'll go back and freshen it up. How big a deal is that? I mean,
That's a good question.
What's your hot take on that? On not supplemental protein feed, but mineral sites.
All right. I'm going to go back to where we started.
Okay.
I do not think very highly of it.
Okay.
But I am always willing to change my mind if someone provides the evidence that it works. But the evidence that it works can't just be because the deer ate it. Now, what do I mean? I'm oversimplifying.
Just because there's deer tracks there, not meaning it's...
Well, and so let's get more into the spring and summer. Just because deer are coming to this mineral lick that is 1/2 salt, how do you disentangle that they're coming and utilizing the mineral, or they're just coming to consume the salt? The deer are going to come to a salt block, period.
Yeah.
And so by adding all this other mineral stuff in it, are they benefiting from it? They may be. They very well may be.
But it's hard to prove it, huh?
It's hard to disentangle what is the cause.
But I've heard you say it before. The right quality, the right quality foods gives them what they need.
Yeah, and I think it was you or Mariah made that point, and it was around, maybe, I don't remember if it was mineral or supplemental protein. If you're doing all these other things in habitat, this isn't something you need to do.
Exactly right.
And I started putting some mineral
scientifically. So if these guys are hunting mainly pine stands that they can't burn, so they've got some
lease land,
some gas line or power line right away easements where they have some food plots. I guess scientifically, do those minerals transfer and help with antler growth? I guess.
No one has proven yet that it can, but that is not to say that it's not. But I think about it from.
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
You're not.
Like,
no.
I'm not
on
a lot
the
of
spot.
people do. Okay.
You're right. A lot of people do it, and but I've yet to have someone Well, nobody's really going to design a study that's a deer pen.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a deer pen study
yes.
to do that. And that's
Yes.
something MSU Deer Lab we've been talking about doing in the future. But just think about it this way. All of those minerals, you just don't even think about it really, but copper and phosphorus and calcium and all these things that you think are in that mineral block, and they are in there, they're in those plants.
Same stuff.
And when we were doing that study, that soil study I was telling you about.
Minus the salt.
Minus the salt.
Yeah.
Minus the salt.
Yeah.
All those chemicals. And that is what deer evolved to eat to get those minerals. So here's another component of it. And I'm not saying it's wrong because I don't know. Is the chemical formulation of that mineral that is dehydrated and put in that block or that mix, is that the same formulation that would be in a plant that a deer we know can utilize? And is it paired in the correct ratio of like phosphorus, calcium, et cetera?
That's a good point. I haven't thought about that one.
Those ratios are in the vegetation
in their intake.
And that's what they're
and their
used
uptake.
to take.
So and the plant has the other things, I guess, for digestive to help uptake.
Yeah.
It may look. That's why we're talking about it. Now I tell you this: you put a trophy rock out right time of year, you're gonna get bucks on it. And I know a lot of people that put cameras on them
absolutely
and watch them, so they like them.
Yes, they do.
You know, why is that salt such a big draw for them?
It's just really them dealing with water. There's just a big change in the spring and the summer. The amount of biomass that they're eating and helping them. The sodium is just necessary for the water pump in their body, so to speak.
It helps them.
How they utilize it. Yeah, they crave it. They crave it. Yeah,
that's cool. I mean, that's why they paw holes as big as this table.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, eat stumps and everything. And look, I put it. I had some deer managers that had some pen deer. You know them. We both are friends of ours, and you've done work with them. And they would put them in a pan and feed them minerals. Mm-hmm. Well, and I've tried on stumps, and they've done well on stumps. They got salt in them. But I put them in my feeders, and they didn't really do crap with them.
Well, deer got a lot of other stuff.
But my deer are probably getting all they need from the natural plants. Right. And you know, so I mean it's a
and I guess the hot take on supplemental feeding is probably similar. If you're doing these other things,
the impact of supplemental feed is directly proportional to how much naturally occurring and or food plot forage is out there. So you can, whether it be a real experiment or a thought experiment, if a deer has got all the different variety of plants that it wants and needs all throughout the year, they're not going to use that supplemental feed very much.
I like what Mitt said when he's analyzing that annual calendar and trying to make sure he doesn't let the table get cleared, is he would have supplemental feeder and feed sites, and he knew when they started hitting them, then he analyzed the landscape and see what he was lacking.
Yeah.
Because there's something driving.
What's my limitation?
Something driving.
You remember this
limiting factor.
Yeah. Even down here, because you got a video of it down here, when I put protein in February, in early March. Remember, because we'd sit during turkey season. I put protein in for those, because I want the does, because ever since since y'all did that research on that doe, I want her to, there's a lot of does hitting. They were all pregnant back then. Then when the Balenza started popping, the Durana started popping, they stopped.
Abandoned that feed.
They abandoned it.
Right.
Okay, they abandoned it for a month and a half. Then they would come back and clean it up. But I made my mind up. I don't want to feed a deer out of a bag. Mm-hmm. Because number one, I like to grow. Number two, they're getting better food in natural setting.
Yeah.
If I do my part. Right. And my part is habitat, right food plots, putting my time in. Okay, that's bottom line. Putting your time in.
Right.
We can say anything we want to, but bottom line, put your time in or pay somebody to put it in.
I think we made Bronson put a bunch of time in this evening. So, it's just been good, Bronson.
Yeah, it's a good deal.
I've enjoyed it.
And I do I want you to come back and let's talk about some native habitats.
Sure.
Let's talk about from an expert.
I kept kind of dodging. I kept wanting to say, well, I mentioned a few times the early succession, the things.
Because we can tie some stuff in, some stuff that you and Mitt are doing now, some CSP, some conservation stewardship program stuff for the government. implementing a lot of y'all stuff, and Mitt and them's really signing to do some stuff.
Is exciting.
Wildlife investments, and so this is all tied together.
Yeah.
And Brent, I know you're gonna put out stuff where they can get him, and
we'll
look,
put some links to wildlife investments.
guys. If you don't know him, he is a professor. He's a doctor, but you can talk to him. I've always been able to talk to you. I've always been able to say, hey, this is what I think, and you said, well, tell me why. And we bounce things off each other, whether we agree or not. That's just life.
Yeah.
But I think we get more out of each other. We talking. So landowners, the man is for hire, and that's the key.
Yeah.
You want a good deer manager. He's a local guy. You will travel. You'll get on an airplane.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He's got his card. He got a little star on his license. He can travel, and so he's ready to go. But I'm glad we've done one. One quick thing, and you help me with this real quick. So if anybody want to write down pounds per acre soybeans, I like 50 pounds. You can plant up to 80 pounds feeding deer. Okay, wouldn't you agree? That's 50, 60 pounds. So a bag and a half. A bag per acre is plenty. Planting bag and a half if you're broadcasting. Okay, but I mean, and I'm even seeing some people that's gone up to 100-something pounds. But then at $60 a pound, I'm a little tight on that. Cow peas, I think 50 pounds is plenty because they grow different. Okay,
and you can't hit those cow peas with
That's right.
Roundup.
No,
that's the other thing.
You can't keep them clean.
Roundup ready.
You cannot keep them clean, guys.
Yep.
Roundup ready beans makes
Don't go out there and try to hit those weeds.
But
there's
your
good
cow peas.
pre-emergence.
Here's the thing: once we start talking mixes, Alice clover, vetch, cow peas, soybeans, mixes. When you mix them, you can't spray them, but you can spray them with clethodim. If grass,
kill the grass.
you can kill the grass in them. So you can spray all of the stuff that we talked about, the 4 or 5 species that you like. You can spray them and keep them clean with clethodim.
Yep.
Select. But 25 pounds on Alice clover, 25 pounds on vetch. I think that's
about
pretty.
20,
that's about what we do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you got a good stand in that.
Absolutely.
And that's just a quick so people can. Clethodim, I'll give you for every 100 gallons of water, 1 gallon of clethodim. Okay, pretty easy. 50 gallons of water, half a gallon of clethodim. A little crop oil. I put just a little crop oil in there. If you don't have crop oil, put you some soap, but put the soap in last. Don't put it in first because it will foam up. Yeah. Easy take on. That's very easy way to spray it, maintain it.
All right.
We're good.
Man, it's
Enjoyed
been good.
it, guys.
Bronson, thank you.
Yes,
always
sir.
Good. Always
had a
enjoyed it.
blast.
I appreciate you, brother, all the time. You've helped me a lot in my career as a deer manager, and I respect your opinions on everything you do. So
I've enjoyed taking some venison from your property too.
That's
So,
right.
hey, it works.
That's
both
right.
ways.
It works good. It works good.
All right, we'll put up links to wildlife investments.
Yes, I'm excited about it.
Connect y'all with them. It's a lot of good stuff.
How many bottles y'all got in wildlife investments? How many's in there right now?
How many biologists?
Yes, y'all got several.
Oh, 1, 2, 3. There's about 7 of us.
So about every kind of wildlife, y'all have an expert, a specialist
and
that
a
can do it.
registered forester.
Yes. Okay. Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see y'all
Thank
next.
you.